talk about HBCUs and the reality. With the student loans being a challenge, being paid back, we could be from unemployment, single parent, family situation, long-term unemployment. We know those things have to catch up to itself. What would you, however, in regards to talking to the presidents of the universities, what advice would you give them? What advice would you give them to try to turn the corner and move forward?
I'm not sure that I can give the president's advice, because I think that the presidents of these colleges are very aware of the situation. Mm-hmm. I think that what I would, it is difficult because nobody wants to turn a student away. Mm-hmm. But also nobody can predict whether that student's parent is going to be laid off, or whether that student can get a job to start paying that loan back while they're still using the loan, or if they're going to graduate so they can get a job and then pay the loan back, because there are students who are paying loans back almost the rest of their lives now. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know what the balance is, but I do know that it affects the historically black colleges and universities more so than others, although I would say that the majority of the unused loans are in the profit-making educational institutions. But you have so many reasons that students drop out or have to go from full-time to part-time and not able to keep that loan going. Well, it affects the rating of the school. And so then the schools have to suffer because the students are not paying the loans back. Parents lose jobs. We've had we're just coming out of a real recession where a number of parents lost jobs, and parents are taking care of their parents and their children being in college at the same time. We understand the sociology of that. Mm-hmm. But it still impacts the current situation. I'm not sure I have the answer to it, to tell you the truth. I'd love to have an answer. I would like to go to the president, and I could do that and say, you know, we're talking about free community college education. Why can't we give a free college education to historically black colleges to offer to the students at least their first 2 years? Mm-hmm. Now, before I get too far out on that, we haven't funded the community college idea yet.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm not sure that this is going to happen in this Congress. I hope it does. I think it's worth that investment. But what I think is worth the investment here for the future of our nation does not seem to get the ear of the majority here. So it is still an uphill climb.
I think in good measure, it's confidence to say that your leadership of the past and your present perseverance of being able to navigate through this environment can bring a collaboration of talent on both sides of the aisle together to look at the needs of this nation, being educated and being globally competitive in a way that we may be able to get past because we've gone down so far. We've seen, if you lack of a better term, rock bottom. And no one, it's not a good feeling. It's a demand that puts entitlement back into the equation. So I feel a sense that with your energy and your leadership, stay encouraged that you continue to assemble people around these good ideas.
Well, I certainly, it's too important to give up on. It's too important not to try to find ways and strategies to be successful. I hope we can be. It is very, very difficult in this environment, but the more our young people realize the importance of voting and getting the right people in office, that leads us into a direction of solving many of these problems. You know, I represent the United States in the world science community, and I talk about it all over the world. We all know the challenges that we're facing, and this is the first time in my life as an American that I've been able to feel like an underdog in a sense, with all of these emerging nations passing us by as we sit here and plead with each other on whether or not we want to be on a competitive stage for the future. Because it's these areas that'll determine whether we are. Right now in this country, the majority of our greatest researchers are not American-born. We need to encourage many of our American-born young people to become researchers. They might not make the money a hip-hopper would make, but their achievements and the longevity and the contributions to the nation is unsurpassed. And so that's one of the lessons that we can carry, that too many of our young people get excited by sports and hip-hop. And there's nothing wrong with that, except the longevity of it is not a staying power. In order to really focus on you can be as a matter of fact, we have an astronaut who was a professional football player.
That's right.
And so it doesn't prohibit you from going on, but it should not be a terminal career to be a professional athlete. It should not be a terminal career even to be a professional entertainer. If you think that you're going to make, unless you're a great manager and hit it right and make a lot of money and invest it well, then you might need to fall back on some other talent that you might have. But it is not incongruent to have a professional entertainer, a professional sports person that would also focus on the sciences and the math and engineering and research to continue to give to our society. But we've got to convince our young people about the importance of these core areas of interest, because it is the future of our nation. Just think about things that have been discovered. And African Americans not on the short list of discovery, of many of those discoveries, but it was done by human beings. It wasn't done by a piece of technology. We had to make the technology to produce it. And so we can do it. We can do it, and that's what we need to convince our young people of, is that yes, it's achievable. It takes focus on something that's very meaningful, not only for the personal satisfaction, but for our nation. There are young people, very young people, who've developed apps and other parts of the technology and sold it to the larger companies and do very well. We've got the talent. We've just got to keep it focused and directed. And it takes all of us to keep that interest. The adults, most especially young adults, because, you know, when you get my age, young people don't listen to you as well. But trying to convince young people to be so focused on how much satisfaction can come. You know, the satisfaction from being a physician or being a dentist or being a technologist in the laboratory or in industry. It gives a great deal more than money. And we've had a society that is focused on money for a long time, and money is important. But there's great satisfaction in being in some of the other parts of the STEM career areas.
Congresswoman, I'm just going to close by saying that you have just described the problem statement and you have provided the solution. And I can see an assembly of a conference that says this is a conference of excellence in the 21st century. People like yourself can bring leaders, industry, academic, and government together, convening, and to not leave the room until those solutions are had, and the young people become front and center. They become the audience. They become the beta test as to where we start with this conversation, how we track them, how we stay with them, and how we're committed to them. And it doesn't have to happen all here in Congress. It needs to happen by all of us through a collaboration.
Well, that's true. As a matter of fact, I work with a lot of volunteer organizations who actually are volunteering and helping young people to become focused in areas in the sciences, technology, math, engineering, through practical experiences, showing examples, role modeling
Mentorship.
and mentorship. It's very, and we really have, very honestly, a very cooperative corporate community,
Yes.
because it's an investment in their future
That's
too.
right. That's
They
exactly
need
right.
the talent,
That's
and they
exactly
need the
right.
talent to remain competitive. So we've had some companies that have been very generous in their support in cultivating the interest of young people.
Well, Congresswoman, I want to say in 2012, you were a champion of change. You continue to be a champion because you are changing the game. And so in 2015, we honor you as our
you.
Black History legend, living legend. And we, frankly, at OGTV call you the queen of STEM diversity in this nation. Thank you so much for your commitment.
Well, thank you.